Welcome to our series on Illustrator Basics for our laser cutter here at DoSpace. For this video, I'm going to be talking about how to manipulate text and make sure that it's ready to go for the laser cutter. So I have Illustrator open and I'm using the Classic Workspace. If you are not using the Classic Workspace and you want to follow along with that, you can come up here to Windows and Workspace and Essentials Classic. So we are going to be doing text and adding text. So I'm going to find our type tool here. And when I click the type tool, I get panels up here that I can manipulate our text with. There's also panels here. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I can come over here to Window and Type and Character and actually get the full character palette here. This is the character palette, and then I'm going to click Show Options, and this gets me the full range of text manipulation in Illustrator. So to add text to a document, I'm going to just click. With the type tool selected, I'm going to click, and it gives me some dummy text there, and I can type in the regular text that I want. So I'm just going to type hello, and now I have text and I can begin to manipulate it. The first thing I'm going to do in this character palette is I'm going to change the font. So the font is right here, and there are basic fonts loaded, and you can always install fonts through depending on which computer you're at. You can download fonts from the internet. I have a font here called Star Jedi that we're going to be working with. So switch to Star Jedi. If I want to use bold or italics, that is this next here, the style of the font. Star Jedi only has regular. I would have to switch to something like Arial. And in Arial, you can see that there's various types of styles. The next box here is size. So a good rule of thumb to remember is 72 points is about an inch. So this would be about an inch high type. This next set is leading, and that is the space between lines of text. So something like double spacing. There's always an automatic default installed here, but you can manipulate that by picking other options. This next box here is kerning, and kerning is the space between pairs of letters. So if we look at this H-E-L-L-O, if we look at this E and this L, they are connecting. That's a default in the font, but I can edit that if I want. So if I click back on the type tool and click on my text to insert a cursor, and I've got a cursor in between the E and the L, I can then go to the kerning and I can select, add 100, and that spaces that out. The reason why you might want to do this is depending on the size of your text. If you've got words that or letters that kind of jam together in the font, when you go to laser cut them, it may then be really hard to read, and we'll see that a little bit in one of the projects we're going to do later. The next thing that I have here is tracking, and this is where kerning sets the space between two characters. Tracking sets the space between all of the characters. So with this selected, I could increase the size, or I could decrease the size if I wanted. I'm going to set that to 0. This next here is the vertical scale. So if I wanted to stretch my text a little bit, I could stretch it. Ooh, 1%. That doesn't work. Let's set it to 100. And this is the horizontal scale. So if I wanted to stretch my text in the other way, I could do that here. This is setting a baseline. So if I was wanting to do something like this, where let's select the E and the L and the O. The baseline is the bottom, where the bottom of your text is. I could shift this baseline up. That will shift that up. I could then also make this smaller. Have something fun. You can also rotate letters a little bit. And then these options, we won't see so much with this font, but we could do all caps. That does change that a little bit. Apparently the O changes to an N. That's very strange. We could do small caps. You could also got subscript and superscript. You've got underline. Underline is a little weird. I don't think it works well, so I would just use the pen tool to draw a line and then strike through. So let's... The other thing that you need to be concerned about is that if you're doing this at home or in the computer lab, sometimes the text you have at home or in the computer lab is not going to match the fonts that are on the computer that runs the laser cutter. So you're going to need to make sure that this text is an object instead of live text. So what I do there is with some text selected, I'm going to come up here to type, and I'm going to say create outline. And by creating an outline, let's get a type so that we can compare them. By creating outline, it stops being editable text and is now objects. And if I come up here to view and outline, you can see here that the outline version of this one, which is still live text, is showing me the regular text, and this is now showing me the one I did a create outline for is now showing me the object. When you're moving back and forth between machines, or when you've finished what you're working on, I highly recommend that you take your text and do a create outline so that you don't have to worry about whether you have the same font on the machine that you're working on.